Let's hop across the pond. There's interesting news that's coming out. Shocking news, stunning news, actually, that's coming out. I don't mean to laugh. I apologize for the grin that I have on my face about this. And all things being equal, I do wish I was a better person. If there was a different society, I would probably be a different person in this case. It wouldn't necessarily be such a hard ass in this particular moment, given what is going on in the UK. But I'm sorry, I'm not that better person. There are better people out there that can turn another cheek, that can turn a blind eye. But I realize, just looking at our political system, that turning a blind eye just gets you slapped. You need me to hold people like this accountable. You need the hard asses who look when somebody is abundantly ill and still point and hold them accountable with a certain degree of grin and satisfaction, because the policies that they were going to push through were going to injure and hurt a lot of people in the same way that they themselves are injured and hurt. Let the weak die off. That was Boris Johnson's policy in regards to the coronavirus. Let the weak die off. Herd immunity. Keep that economy going. Keep that economy ticking along. Keep those businesses open. And the weak will fall by the wayside, but the strong will persist. Boris Johnson has the coronavirus.
Hi, folks. Quick update from me on campaign against coronavirus. First of all, in my own case, although I'm feeling better and I've done my 7 days of isolation, alas, I still have one of the symptoms, a minor symptom of I still have a temperature, and so in accordance with government advice, I must continue my self-isolation until that symptom itself goes. But we're working clearly the whole time on our program to defeat the virus. You'll have seen the big announcement yesterday about 100,000 tests.
Now, I'm not going to get into his line. I'm not going to deal with the line. Trump has been putting out lies like that also. They act like these two people are the same. They're not. Boris Johnson is far more crafty, far more bright, better in the political space than Donald Trump ever could hope to be. They are not the same actors. Johnson was able to essentially cow Jeremy Corbyn and wrap him into knots. And yes, many of the positions that Jeremy Corbyn put out in this kind of political jousting that was taking place, Johnson took a political strategy, executed that strategy, and won that race. Despite the fact he was losing vote after vote after vote in Parliament itself, from the standpoint of public perception, they loved the guy. And that thought that was the guy that was going through Brexit, even if it meant hitting the NHS. The Conservative Party and even New Labour has attacked the NHS relentlessly. There were stories coming out a few years ago about people dying in ambulances because the NHS wasn't capable of dealing with the surge of people in the wintertime. Johnson, Theresa May, Cameron, Blair, all of those people are responsible for the degradation, the privatization of the NHS. And it's not something that's done in one full sweep. It's just like the way politics in the United States shifted to the right. You get to a certain point within the context of a generation, and you make a slight move. You take a plank out. Then you move to another generation, you take another plank. Each generation thinks that it's one minor move that's taking place, missing the point again that politics is not stopping in one election. Politics is going over the course of time, meaning each plank that's been taken out, each particular generation doesn't necessarily see the entirety of the context as it gets whittled away. That's what they have done to the NHS. They've whittled it away. Something that was a prize of the goddamn world. You should have been amazingly proud of your NHS and protected that particular product. And I'm saying this from the standpoint of America, where we have nothing like it. We have people who have died of the coronavirus because they didn't have health care and was either turned away or didn't necessarily go because they didn't want the bill. That's what we have here in this country. Protect your NHS from people like Boris Johnson. Now, the news is different. Now, to make the case, herd immunity. This is literally the opposite policy. And a policy, by the way, that expands and spreads the COVID-19 virus. It is absolutely understood that way by scientists, epidemiologists, researchers who are in this particular field of infectious disease. All of them have come to the same conclusion. Stay home. Don't interact. The more you interact, the higher the percentage of chance that you're going to interact with people and spread the virus. Stay home, stay home. Boris Johnson policy. We must protect the economy. Herd immunity. Herd immunity. Dystopian. Utterly and entirely dystopian. Let the weak die off. That's basically the policy, or was the
The vast
policy.
majority of people get a mild illness to build up some degree of herd immunity as well, so that more people are immune to this disease and we reduce the transmission. At the same time, we protect those who are most vulnerable from it. Those are the key things we need to do.
The herd immunity is ludicrous. The virus can be passed whether or not an individual has symptoms, meaning that person who has no symptoms goes to see their grandma just to make sure their grandma has something to eat in the middle of this pandemic and kills their grandma with that particular virus because that grandma is more susceptible to the illness. Herd immunity. Let the weak die off. When you hear that, that's what that is. Because that's literally a policy of letting a virus spread, knowing that that virus is going to have a certain death toll. Boris Johnson's weak response to the coronavirus has the UK sitting at this tiny, tiny nation. What, a sixth or fifth of the United States? United States, 356,000, 10,792 deaths. What about the UK? 5,373 deaths. You have half our deaths. Half. And you are like a fifth or sixth of our size. Put that in perspective. That's what the NHS is dealing with. That's what all of those people have been dying in the UK because of the poor response by the government of Boris Johnson. Just like the US becomes the epicenter because of the poor response of the conservative government of the United States. Boris Johnson is responsible. He has blood on his hands. So no, when I see this Boris Johnson clip of him looking bad and rough, talking about the coronavirus, just keep in mind that his policy that they was going to go along with was going to have a lot of people getting this particular virus. Let the weak die off. Do I gain some sick, schadenfreude satisfaction seeing Boris Johnson sitting there with a virus that he was perfectly willing for a large part of the population to accept? Yes, I do. I do. Not even going to lie to you. It warms my heart to some degree. Yes, that's a harsh, horrible thing to say. And my mom would probably say, boo, don't say that. That man is feeling horrible. Fair enough, I understand that man is feeling horrible. By the same token, there needs to be some level of accountability in the political process. He is in that political process making decisions that is affecting a large number of people within the population. And the decisions that he made was in order to protect capital while letting other people get ill. And now he himself is ill with the virus that he was going to intentionally allow a large part of the population to accept. So yes, I get a sick thrill and satisfaction with the fact that Boris Johnson has been captured by the illness to which he was willing to let a lot of other people be captured by. Call me an asshole. Fair enough. I accept it. Here's the catch. Right now, however, Bojo has gotten worse. And Bojo has been put in intensive
British Prime Minister
care.
Boris Johnson has been transferred to the intensive care unit after testing positive for coronavirus and heading into the hospital. CNN's Bianca Nobilo joins me now with the details on this. Bianca, what are you learning here?
Well, Kate, this hour we have learned that Boris Johnson's been transferred to the ICU. Now, we knew that he had been admitted to hospital about 24 hours ago. The Prime Minister tested positive for coronavirus 10 days ago. He'd then been in self-isolation. We'd barely seen him. He'd only emerged once or twice. Then, yesterday, on the advice of his doctor, because his symptoms were persisting, he was advised to go to hospital for, quote, routine tests. We were not told what those were. We then received word about 15 minutes ago that he'd been moved to the intensive care unit about 7 p.m., so about an hour ago local time. Now, that's all we have at the moment about the Prime Minister's condition. There was a lot of concern today when his de facto deputy, Dominic Raab, took the stage to do the press conference from Downing Street. We weren't getting almost any information about the Prime Minister's condition. No indication of deterioration, but the language had changed. Last week, they'd referred to the Prime Minister's symptoms as mild. Today, they were calling them persistent. Clearly, there has been a deterioration on doctors' advice at St Thomas's Hospital in London. He's been moved to the intensive care unit. So as soon as we get more information about that, we'll update you. All that we have is that the PM is receiving excellent care from the NHS. There were posts on his Twitter account and his Instagram account today, but we haven't seen the Prime Minister for some time. The decision was made by the Prime Minister's medical team because his condition has worsened over the course of the afternoon today. Now, at the lobby briefing, which happens daily about the Prime Minister and the activities of the UK government, it was the notion that he was on a ventilator at that point was dispensed with. There had been some erroneous Russian reports that the Prime Minister was on a ventilator. The spokesperson took the opportunity to say, no, that's disinformation. That is not true. Then, as we now know, his condition has worsened.
Basically, Boris Johnson is in ill health. Now, I wish no one ill health, so I would never go to that particular point. But I will say that he will get great care. I wish him a speedy and healthy recovery. Like I said, I wish no harm on anyone. But if you ask me, do I get a sick thrill to some degree that the policy, for once, that these guys were perfectly willing to instill on the entire population, he himself was enraptured by? Yeah. I mean, I am like everybody else that has that thing in their brain that pops off when they see something that balances an equation. No, what he was willing to do didn't necessarily balance the equation. And yes, he was going to do it. He did an about face after a while when they realized, oh my God, we're going to kill a lot of people with this policy. So fair enough. He also instilled certain social measures in order to kind of buffer the society and the economy beyond what we did in the United States. So again, give credit where credit is due. But also, let's just be clear. The herd immunity thing was a sick political policy to even be considered, let alone attempt potentially implement it. The number of deaths that are taking place in the UK now, Bojo is directly responsible. I wish him a speedy recovery. Does it trip me out to some degree that he got ill, etc.? Again, yes. I do wish I was a better person to not say that, but nevertheless, here I am. Like, share, subscribe. Thanks so.